everyone. Welcome back to Chronotalk. I'm your host, Mykayla Lynn, and today's episode is one that I've been looking forward to. Joining me today is going to be Zachary Weeks. Zach is a disability advocate, accessibility consultant, and overall powerhouse, honestly. He lives with cerebral palsy, he uses a wheelchair, and he brings a deep passion for justice, the systems changing, as well as community building. So he's going to be here today talking to all of us about mental health, advocacy, and what it also means to truly thrive in a world that was not built for people with disabilities. So Zachary, thank you so much for being here on Chronotalk today.
Well, it's my pleasure, Mykayla, and it's an honor to be here.
Thank you. So let's start with your story. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey growing up with cerebral palsy and how that shaped your perspective, but as well as your identity and your perspective on disability?
Yeah, so my story is a little bit unique compared to probably, your usual guests, because I was born with cerebral palsy, so that's all I've ever known is having a disability. Growing up, I was treated just like any other kid by my parents, and they're really the foundation for the level of confidence that I have as well. Sort of going back, I will say that, you know, ironically enough, I didn't see myself as being disabled, and quite frankly, I didn't want any friends that were disabled, didn't want to be around kids that were disabled. My peers were all able-bodied, and that really didn't change until I was older. So the large majority of my growing up, it was a decent childhood, but I had my struggles with accepting who I was as being disabled. So, I was I think around 18 when, I was asking the powers that be, like, why me? Why am I disabled? All this stuff. And then it sort of hit me that, like, maybe I was born this way for a reason. And, maybe all those times that I was trying to fit in, I was actually born to stand out. And so once I embraced
Exactly.
myself as who I truly was, authentically in my bones, so to speak, it was really weird how the universe sort of just switched and doors opened up, and life really turned around from there.
So, what was the toll on your mental health like throughout that? Did you have a good support system aside from just friends? Like, did you have a supportive family throughout that?
Yeah, so I mean, my mom was, pivotal in making sure that I always seeing the glass is half full, not half empty. Yes, you can't do this, you can't do that, but you can do X, Y, Z. So that said, I would bet that every person with a disability has had their own struggles with mental health along the way. Um, even if you're in picture perfect health, you still deal with bad days and good days. But let's be honest, having a disability is not for the faint of heart. There's many a nights where I cried myself to sleep, and I just wanted to be normal, right? But now I realize, as an adult, there is no normal, and quite frankly, if there was, the world would be a pretty boring place. Going through what I went through, I now make sure that the younger generation is very comfortable talking to their peers about mental health. And quite frankly, if you don't have a peer system that, actually gets what you're going through, that makes it a lot harder. In the disability community here in Edmonton, Alberta, there's a group of us that rely on each other and pull each other up when the days get tough.
Yeah, and having those peers in that community can be really pivotal in everyone's journey of feeling supported enough to keep going and to have that next day. So, can you unpack for us a little bit about how systemic inaccessibility and isolation have impacted your own mental health?
Yeah, so that's a lot to unpack. At the crux of it, I think, isolation is likely one of the biggest drivers to depression, anxiety, even suicidal ideation. If you're always isolated, you're not feeling like you belong in this world. And I think through the lack of access, whether it's physical or otherwise, it can be really daunting to try and get out and enjoy life to the best you can. And so, that's what really also drives some of the things that I do around my advocacy is making sure that people are no longer confined to their homes. Growing up, I'm gonna date myself here, but there wasn't a Facebook or anything through a large majority of my childhood. And so I didn't really have anyone else that I could talk to that got it aside from my mom and my dad. So yeah, even just having digital access is tremendous only to a certain degree. And I have some friends that are blind or low vision that can access the internet at the same playing field as say sighted individuals. So there's still a lot of work to be done. And once we do that, once we accomplish that and move the needle enough that people aren't isolated, then I think that's when mental health for people with disabilities is going to improve.
That was such a great point. Thank you, Zach. I appreciate you touching on that.
Hmm.
Talking about the mental health portion of it, how did you navigate your own mental health while doing all of this advocacy work? Because while it is very empowering, it can be exhausting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm probably not the best person to speak to this because I am trying my best to to balance it. And I think that's where you need to surround yourself with a good support system. And if you don't have that, you need to search it out because that's what makes days go by way smoother than not having that. And I think you're right. You see work is long and stressful and tiresome, and it feels like you're banging your head on the wall 98% of the time because people just don't get it. But at the end of the day, you have to take care of yourself so you can take care of others. So what's the saying? You can't pour from an empty cup, I think it is. So
Yeah.
you need to fill your cup so you can fill others' cups as well. The world just needs to be kinder. We live in such a world now that a little bit of love can go a long way. So,
Yeah,
could
I agree.
if we could open our hearts, fully, wow, that would make the world a heck of a lot better place.
Right. What do you think are some of the most important things that you would like to see be more accessible to the disabled community through all of your advocacy work?
Well, I think there's a lot of work being done by a lot of great advocates. Being Gill, Brian McPherson, he's doing his thing. With Push and their TV show. So that raised a lot of awareness. But beyond awareness, we need legislation. And so,
Yes.
in order to really make the world more inclusive here in Alberta, we need a strong, accountable legislation that covers more than just elevators and ramps. It goes into the other pillars that we sort of talked about. What does it look like in terms of access to mental health, our healthcare system, education, digital landscapes? The list goes on. And so we're actually one of only two provinces left in Canada that doesn't have a piece of legislation. What we currently have is a patchwork of 30 different policies that often don't talk to each other or work with each other because it's always constantly cobbled together and there's no one cohesive legislation to help people with disabilities live the life they deserve in Alberta.
And so, how would the community go about helping make more change? If our listeners were listening to this and they seen your legislation work that you do, how would they help kind of back you up?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think the easiest way to go about it is to talk about it, to continue raising awareness. But, beyond that, the most important thing you can do is reach out to your MLAs, your local MLA, and ask them why are we not creating or why do we not have an accessible legislation here in Alberta yet? Don't let them off the hook by saying, oh, we have these design guides. Well, design guides are great, but there's no enforceable parameters. Should someone not follow those guidelines? And obviously all the other issues that are beyond just physical architecture, right? So reach out to your MLAs, write letters. Now, I say write letters and everybody's like, I don't got time to write a letter. What do I even say? So if you do want to write a letter, I've partnered up with Barrier Free Alberta, which is a grassroots organization that has started a letter writing campaign wherein, the letter is all written up for you. All you do is plug in your postal code and it automatically selects the relevant MLAs for your area. It'll CC the shadow minister on that portfolio, which is MLA Marie Renault, who's actually committed to having a private member's bill dedicated towards accessibility legislation. So it's really not how can we support me, it's how can we support her and the official opposition in keeping our government accountable to the best of our ability.
Yeah, I guess I should have said like how would we support the community in general of pushing this along, because I mean, like, no matter the amount of advocacy work that I see that you do or that Bean Gill does or Brian McPherson, all of the push peers and everyone beyond, I mean, we could name so many if we just sat here and did that.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless of that, regardless of Push or the Crip Chip, which is going on its second season now, all of the above, I think it's just still not enough, as we're aware of. So things like writing to the MLA, I think, are really important. But having a service like that, Zach, is amazing. So please share that with me after so I can put it in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would like even my family and friends to be filling that out, like disability or not, if some of the able-bodied community could really step up into helping push that message further.
Well, I want to back it up a little bit in that, people often say, well, what's the point of writing letters? Like, they don't even answer them or read them, whatever. And that could very well be the case. But what I do know from working with the government is that they, by law, have to track all of the letters that they received and categorize them by topic. So if you're hammering the MLAs with, say it's about education, then they have to report on that. So similar to accessibility issues, they have to report on that. And that's where it really shifts the narrative because it goes from anecdotal, which is typically the case within the disability community. It's all based off of hearsay, anecdotal. Oh, I heard that this isn't blah, blah, blah. Right? So once we have data, then it empowers and informs, pardon the phrase, but a leg to stand on, right?
Right.
If you just have hearsay, just like in the court system, right, then your case isn't going to go very far. But yeah, I mean, and the important part also is that it's not just physical disabilities anymore, right? It's chronic illness, it's invisible disability. So even if a person looks able-bodied, they're really not. And further to that point, it's actually the disability population is the largest minority in the group, or in the world, sorry, that you can join at any given time. You can't join any other
One day
minority
away.
group. Right.
Yeah, one
So,
day away.
and
Everyone's a
and
day
you know
away.
this
You're one
personally.
accident away. Yeah.
Yeah.
That like we mentioned last time, like even when you're old age and then you start getting disabilities because your bones are getting weaker or because you're having slips and falls, etc. Anybody is a day away, whether it is because you're
Mm.
going to be older one day or because you have an accident one day. So I think people need to really broaden their, mindset and open up, be more inclusive, like you said, be more kind. I think that's just something we're really missing is the be
Yeah.
more kind to people.
Yeah, and kindness, love, open-mindedness, we could probably solve 90% of the world's problems if not only the general public, but our leaders in the world thought that way. But that's a different
Right.
discussion for a different day.
So, for people listening who want to be able to kind of look into some more stuff you are doing, where do you share most of that, Zach?
Yeah, so nowadays it's all about the socials, right? So we gotta be on the Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, X. I have a website, so ZacharyWeeks.ca. My handles are usually at ZacharyWeeks or at Zachary. Try and keep things as simple as possible. No crazy weird handles. But yeah, that I mean, social media is, and that's a great point actually. You asked earlier in the interview, how can you help move the needle on this? Is using social media. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the biggest tool in the world, the most accessible tool in the world, so to speak. Everybody's on it, and we've seen what happens when social media piles onto something. Right? It can be used for bad and it can be used for good, and this would be obviously a great example of using it for good.
Well, and like you said, social media can not be accessible to all, whether it be because they're, visibly impaired or they maybe just can't use social media because of their mental health or any of those kind of reasons. So, if that be the case, I also know that you do some like in person events as well. So, do you have anything like that coming up or any more of those like legislative, kind of milestones to hit?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm just thinking I am going to be involved in a town hall discussion here not too soon, or not too long from now, sorry, around educational supports. Because one of the challenges, one of many challenges here in Alberta is that our students with disabilities are not being properly supported in the classroom. And really, it's a survival of the fittest for those that don't have challenges. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be having a town hall here coming up with MLA Marie Renault, continuing to, make our rounds and gather important feedback and support and all of that in the name of making a strong legislation that has teeth, that holds people accountable, and make sure that, our children have the best future ahead of them as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely. Which I mean, you are helping pave the way too. So good for you. And with that being said, what is one of the things that stick out to you that you're like, man, I am just so proud of that moment?
Well, that's a good question. That's really good.
You can think on it for a second.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, I'm gonna do two. So the first one was our recent rally that I helped organize. And if you're involved in the disability community, you know how hard it can be to get everyone on the same page sometimes. Getting them at the same location is even harder
Yeah.
due to accessibility or otherwise. But we just had a rally in May in which we had like a couple hundred people with disabilities show up. It was super well attended. And then after that, we went into the legislature, and all of the questions towards the UCP were on disability issues. Again, everything from education to age to the Canada Disability Benefits, physical accessibility. And so I think that was the first time I could be remiss, but I think that was the first time in history that that's ever been done, and I don't think it was expected either by the UCP. So they seemed
Amazing.
a little bit flustered, but and then the second side of my answer, second part, I guess, would be, just seeing people with disabilities starting to come together and empower each other and use their voice in an authentic way because that takes a lot of courage. I mean, that took me years to be comfortable in my own skin and do what I do. So having, seeing this next wave of people approaching me, in mentorship and, I'm not the end all be all, don't get me wrong. Like, there's tons of great people out there like Bean and Brian and,
I mean, I think
Aleem
you're pretty
Jaffer.
cool too.
Well, thank you. I mean, even yourself, right? Like, you think about 5 years ago, how many podcasts were there about chronic illness and such, right? Like,
Yeah.
people are coming out of the
I mean,
woodwork, and it takes a
I think
collective
that's why
voice.
I really like stepped up into the space because I felt very uncomfortable as well. Like, I didn't want to talk about it. I don't have a full
Mm,
diagnosis. I don't feel like I have like the right to talk about it. And once I kind of
mm.
like worked a little bit through that, I was like, okay, well, it's not actually just about me. Like, Brian McPherson is my uncle for the listeners who don't know yet. So, Brian, my entire life
My
has been a
condolences.
paraplegic.
My condolences.
Oh, Brian, I hope you hear that. So, that being said, being a paraplegic my whole life, I felt like I was always around someone who had barriers in front of them, but always showed me that they just weren't barriers to him, and that the world was not going to make him any lesser than, and that he was just going to outshine everybody and then some, and he's going to destroy the path while he does it and make a ruckus. And I loved it. And I feel like he showed me that, like, I'm able to open up this side as well, but also tackle all of you. Like, I've messaged Bean, I've messaged you, I've got Ty Martin coming on, I've got a whole bunch of people, really good guests, because you guys are some of the most influential people out there trying to make changes, trying to really like open up and hit the platform hard. And I want there to just be more of a sharing of that. Like, I like that people can come here and they can get, your Instagram bio, and then next week they might be able to get this person's, and it's
Hmm.
nice, right?
No, absolutely. And I mean, Brian and I have been long friends for a long time, and you have a great example of a guy that looks the world in its face and throws up the double middle finger, right? And
Sure
says,
does.
"Watch me." And so, I mean, keep following your uncle's steps, so to speak, and why can't you be the next one in line, right? I mean,
I'll never be
you're
Brian.
well, I don't think anyone could ever be Brian. He's just too damn crazy. But I think you have a great opportunity to share your perspective because your perspective is not the same as mine, right? I have no
Yeah,
clue what it's like to deal with the challenges you do and vice
and
versa,
vice
right? And
versa.
so that's where, understanding the being more understanding and open minded and loving each other for who they are and how we can all work and play together is what's going to make our lives easier selfishly but also improve the
Yeah.
lives of the next generation. And yeah, I can't wait to see what you do, Mykayla.
Thank you. Well, also same, and throughout the whole way, like everything I see in of importance that you're doing, like I try to share in some way or another or talk about, and
And I
we'll always
appreciate that.
continue to do that. Yeah, like
And same here.
the last event that you did at the legislative, like amazing. Like, when I said amazing and clap, like I wish I could clap louder into the mic, but amazing. Like, the not only just the attendance of how many people you got to show up, but like the impact of the wave.
And it's not about just having people with wheelchairs there, right? Like it's diversity. And once you embrace diversity, man, you're a force to be reckoned with. So just like you're doing on this podcast, you're not just having folks with chronic illness speaking, but you're also recognizing the people that came before you, and I really
Yeah.
respect that. So,
I
I
also
mean,
am going to have caregiver aspects as well. I also think it's important that not only just how it affects
totally.
people with invisible illnesses or disabilities, but the people around them that care for them can severely impact people's lives.
Absolutely. I mean, the amount of sacrifice my family has made to make sure that I've succeeded. I mean, I can't think of it too much because I get all emotional. But, like the caregiver shit is real, right? Like
Yeah.
behind behind Zachary, there's another person that is pushing just as hard. There's no Zachary without them. And that includes my wife, my mom, my cousins, like my friends, you know. So I love the fact that you're gonna have caregivers on as well, because that's a critical part of the story that isn't often talked about. Is how does this impact family? How does this impact, people that aren't family that are hired as staff, right? There's tons of caregiver burnout and you talk about mental health. That's another great aspect to cover.
Yeah, thank you. I do think, yeah, I think it's important to like tackle it from all angles. Like, if we're just trying to educate people like simply on one thing, like chronic illness, well, then they're never going to understand disability. And if you're only going to educate them on disability, they're never going to understand what it's like to be a caregiver. If we don't kind of give all the aspects and also share things like the work being done behind the scenes, then like I don't think people will ever get it. And maybe, right now my podcast only has like 250 listeners, but I don't know 250 people. Like I can tell you I don't know that many people that are listening to my stuff, so I know that whether it's a small amount that I'm impacting now or a greater amount later or not, I'm still impacting someone. I'm still helping somebody or still educating somebody through bringing on other people to give different perspectives. And I think different perspectives and education is a really key way into making a community be more kind, be more empathetic.
I couldn't agree more. And um, I think you're doing all the right things. I'm starting to sound like a broken record here, but I think, you're absolutely right. And I don't know how old you are, but you look younger than me. And to have that much wisdom at your age, like, go tear shit up, sister.
Oh, I'm trying. I'm 24. I just registered for my Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. I'm doing the podcast and I'm working full time of my own small business. So I am just
There you
crushing
go.
that path. And I
Wow.
also have the chronic illness, but I'm doing this all for a greater purpose. The Bachelor of Arts in Psychology is simply just to back all of this up, just to be able to help more people in the future. Like, I feel like that's what my purpose is here on the world. And that's just like you said earlier. Like, I feel like sometimes you're just like, why did this happen to me? And then you sit here and you're like, you know what? Maybe you need to stop saying, why did this happen to me? And like, what can I do with this? How can I make this help other people, help me, help the world?
No, absolutely. And not to get all weird about it, but like, as soon as I found my purpose, like I said, universe opened up, like weird shit was going on, right? Like,
That's how I feel right now. I called Brian and I was freaking out. I was like, I am seeing numbers everywhere. I'm getting like signs from the universe every day. I'm like, I'm freaking out. And then he called
yeah,
me a few days later and he was like, buddy, he's like, I'm getting all the signs too. He's like, now we're both freaked out.
awesome. No, I mean, it's so weird how it happens. Once you embrace, yourself wholly, then you're unstoppable, right? Yeah. So, yeah. Any way I can help out the podcast, and just for the record, 250 people listening to you, like, that's very good. I don't have a podcast, but I doubt I'd have that many listeners. Good Lord.
Don't shame yourself because you're doing a lot and
No.
you've got a good following and you've got good support, and that's all that we're ever looking for, right? Is good support and just helping each other, like amplify each other's voices. So with that being said, Zach, is there anything else that you want to share or that you think that we've kind of like glossed over or anything?
No, I think what I want to share is anyone who's listening to this podcast off of my social networks, go and follow Chronic Talk and subscribe to that podcast and watch this young lady because she's gonna do some pretty amazing things I don't say that very often, but yeah, I think you got what it takes.
Thank you, Zachary. I appreciate that. Also, anybody listening on my end here, please go follow Zachary. And anybody else that we've had on the podcast, go back and listen if you've missed any of the other episodes. I feel like every episode has had such a little unique story and perspective. And I'm just so grateful to keep bringing on different guests with different lifestyles and different perspectives and different change as well. Like, all of us are trying to make a different change in a different area. So like Kate, she's on the last episode is a very much more into fitness, and the previous episode before that, like Emma is a therapist, so more on the mental health aspect. So I think it's just really important that we just keep tackling this from many different angles. So thank you, Zach, for being another angle for us today, another perspective, and sharing so much of your knowledge and all the change that you look forward to making.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, Mykayla.
All right. So thank you everyone for listening today and for being here. And we appreciate Zach's honesty and heart throughout this conversation. There was a lot of reflection, real talk, and I'm just very excited to see how we will all just continue to make waves. So as Zachary said, you can find him at Zachary Weeks on most of the socials. We'll link that below. I will also link the form that Zachary was talking about earlier in the episode regarding emailing our MLA if you are in the Edmonton area or region. So to everyone listening, thank you for tuning into this episode of Chronotalk. Please like this, give it a share, give yourself grace, and keep the conversation going, and see you all next time.